now available in paperback and e-readers. Spellbound, a darker shade of black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. You often have these swirlers and divestors saying that their reasons for pursuing relationships outside of the black community are because black men are so-called dusty. And because they see the black man as a so-called three trash bag dusty, they believe that this justifies them going outside of the black community to pursue relationships with white men. Now, these black women will sit there and talk about how your black man is not going out here and working and building and has to live off of them and is one of these three trash bag dusties. But when I look at your whole situation as related to these swirlers and divestors, I don't really see them going out here and getting a so-called better man from the white community. No, when I look at your swirlers and divestors, I see them going from the cinnamon dusty section of black men over to the powdered sugar dusty white men to pursue relationships with men. Because the common denominator as related to these swirlers and divestors is their whole dysfunctional frame of thinking. And because many of these women do not have a model for a healthy relationship in front of them, they go from the so-called powdered cinnamon dusty black men over to the powdered sugar dusty white men. And what they're doing is going out here and getting involved with the white man who is going out here with three white kitchen trash bags and using him as a substitute for the three hefty bag dusty black men. And they're thinking they're getting something completely different. However, they're getting the exact same thing. And this is a point that I made in my book, Why 70% of black women Are Single, that your black woman who goes out here and has the mindset of swirling or divesting from the black community is just getting the exact same man in a different color, because like attracts like, and the big problem is not the man out here, it is the woman and who she chooses to get involved with. And the problem with your modern swirlers and divestors is that they are just as dusty as the guys they say they want to get involved in. And many of these swirlers and divestors don't want to brush the dust off themselves because all they're looking at is the dust on the black man. So they're sitting there talking about the dust on the black man, but they really need to go out here and get a vacuum cleaner and get all of that cinnamon and powdered sugar dust off of themselves. Because the big problem with your swirlers and divestors is that they don't think critically about who they're pursuing relationships with, or ask the critical question as related to these powdered sugar dusty white boys, and that is, why doesn't that white woman want any of these dudes? Because you would think in a system of white supremacy and with men being in smaller population than women, your women who outnumber men 4-1 would have chosen this powdered sugar dusty white boy, because there's a shortage of men out here in general. So these women, white women, are choosing not to get involved with this white man for a reason. And sadly, many of these swirlers and divestors are so spellbound by that white skin and those blue eyes and that blonde hair that they never ask themselves that critical question: why aren't these white girls picking up this guy? And that's the reason that they are out here right now. They never ask that question, hey, why isn't that white girl picking up that guy? Because these white women, there's a reason why they're not dealing with this guy. And the main reason why they're not dealing with this guy is because this guy possibly has some sort of mental health issues, or he has some sort of addiction issues. And many of these swirlers, they're just, again, so enamored by the white skin because it covers a multitude of sins and imperfections that all they think about is that he's white, whereas the white woman is sitting there looking at this guy and seeing all of the imperfections that this guy actually has, like that drug problem, like the fact that he cannot keep a job, and like the fact that he may be an alcoholic or a meth head. And they're looking at that guy and seeing all the problems with said dude, and that's the main reason why they're not getting involved with that dude, because when they look at the content of his character, they don't see anybody that they could see that would elevate them as related to getting them to move forward, as related to an economic situation or even a family situation and building. Unfortunately, many of your swirlers and divestors, again, are so caught up and spellbound by the crystal blue eyes and the blonde hair, and the fact that he's just a white guy, that they're looking to have a relationship with the powdered sugar Dusty, never understanding that powdered sugar Dusty is no different than Pookie and Ray Ray. And in fact, all they're doing is moving from one neighborhood filled with Dusties over to another neighborhood with Dusties. Only these Dusties are white boys, and instead of them being covered in the cinnamon sugar dust from these Pookies and Ray Rays, they are just covered up in the dust of powdered sugar from the powdered sugar dusty white boys. And these powdered sugar dusty white boys, many of these swirlers think that they are the sweetest thing. Unfortunately, like a powdered sugar donut, all it does is leave them with a stomach ache at the end of the day. Because as they're sitting there dealing with the problems from the powdered sugar dusty white boy, they sit there and are sitting there paying the bills for this guy who is basically sitting on the sofa having beefs and arguments on social media the same way Pookie and Ray Ray are doing, and they are using up all the hot water and eating up all the food the same way Pookie and Ray Ray do, and driving around in her car the same way Pookie and Ray Ray do. And the only difference between either of them, again, is the color of their skin, and that's the only thing that makes many of these swirlers and divestors think that this guy is better, as she drops the skid mark thong for him and allows him to get a taste of the atomic waste, not understanding that all she's getting is a taste in a different flavor, and thinking that she's getting something different, when sadly it's just the exact same ingredients as related to values and character that she was getting before. But the only thing is that she thinks that it tastes different, but it's the actual same thing. And again, she's sitting there with the powdered sugar dusty white boy, thinking she's getting a better deal, but the only thing she's doing is getting the same amount of nothing that she got before, because the problem isn't the men she's getting involved with. No, the problem is the swirler, and the problem is the swirler does not like herself. The swirler does not value herself, and the swirler does not see herself as beautiful, and this is why she winds up getting involved with these ugly men and these powdered sugar dusty dudes. And the reason why her relationships fail are not about the men she gets involved with, it's all about her, because whether it's a cinnamon dusty or a powdered sugar dusty, at the end of the day, she's the one bellyaching about how bad men are, when the problem is that she never knew how to have a relationship with men, because she never was socialized to see a model of a successful relationship. between her mother and her father. So when I look at these swirlers who sit there and talk about dusty dudes, I just have to look at them and say, you talk about the 3 hefty bag, trash bag, dusty black man, but then you go over and get the white, tall kitchen garbage bag, dusty white man, and it's the exact same thing in a different color, but all you're doing is getting the same guy in a different color and thinking that you're getting a different thing. And then when you have the same paradigm, you're sitting there at the end of the day wondering, where have all the good men gone? But the problem is that you're not looking at your character and seeing that you're attracting these kind of guys because you only see yourself as less than and have a low self-worth, and that's why you're dealing with these powdered sugar dusty dudes, and you're thinking that you're getting this great deal, but all you're getting, again, is one big bellyache, and that's something that happens when you don't go out here and understand how things are done. So I look at these swirlers and divestors talking about how, oh, I've got this white man and it's gonna be a better deal, but we're seeing now with all of the violent incidents that it's not a better deal. It's just one big thing that leads to them winding up it with a big stomach ache and winding up with them dropping the skid mark thong and screaming on a toilet for help. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up one of my books that will help you break out of this paradigm, you can find Why 70% of Black Women Are Single on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find Why 70% of Black Women Are Single on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.